let me say that I start this contribution with the end, not with the beginning. Because frankly speaking, I do miss the follow-up of this day. Let me be critical to myself, so I understand if I leave this room, what to be done. Not to entertain myself, to have a good time, but to understand what my people in Papua need while being on the pride. So let me share with you the 8 points of the Millennium Development Goals for Papua for 2015. The first one is to eradicate extreme poverty and hunger. It exists in Papua, but how do we eradicate that? The second thing is ensure that all boys and girls complete primary school in Papua. How do we do that? The third is to promote gender equality and empower women. How in practice are we doing that in Papua now? The fourth agenda item is reduce by 2/3 the mortality rate among children under 5 years. What are we doing now in Papua to prevent that? Reduce by 2/3 the ratio of women dying in childbirth. So women that die when they give life to children, we have to reduce that. Halt and begin to reverse the spread of HIV/AIDS and incidence of malaria and other major diseases in Papua. Number 7, ensure environmental stability. I do believe the paradise on earth is in Papua, and I take pride in that. And the last point is develop a global partnership for development. So in these 8 points, we can have partnership. So the question is then, what are the challenges here to have a full and effective participatory development for the indigenous Papuans as subject of their own future? That should be the message of us today. Not to dictate what the Papuans should do, but to help the Papua to help themselves to move forward so that they take pride in their own destiny and their own future. And we are challenged to do so. And I must say that I was a little bit confused. And I'm also saddened that actually Nicholas Yahweh Jr. should be here to celebrate with me 40 years of the right to self-determination. He should make his own decision to be here or not to be here. Nobody else should do that for him. He should be here. And I appreciate Nicholas Yahweh Jr. because he's a highly intellectual young Papuan that we need in our struggle, that we need to maintain our pride. If I don't take pride in Nicholas Yahweh Jr., to whom do I have to take pride? It's my one young countryman that I'm very proud of, that he exists and he's knowledgeable on the issue that we want to discuss today. So I'm very sorry that he's not here. I said in my beginning that I should like to open this meeting by starting with the end. And the end is that I am discussing now with Papua what we call Repelita, the plan of action. Rencana Pembangunan of Rencana Perjuangan Papua 5 tahun. How do we get there? Undang-Undang Otsus, the special autonomy law in Papua, simply say we will positively discriminate the Papuans in education, in healthcare, the social economic development, and developing human and technical infrastructure to get the West Papuan moving. I fully support the special autonomy law to be realistic. Not idealistic, but realistic. My ideal is our own future that we will develop. The problem in Papua today, and that we are challenged, and I am sure you are helping very much to get there, is to build a strong civil society. If we don't have a civil society in Papua, the Papua House will collapse. There is no poles and no pillars to support Papua, and therefore we need to build a strong civil society. The United Nations is helping the West Papuans to do it. But let me be frankly, there is one big problem, the capacity of the West Papuans to be part and parcel of this process. So this is where I can say loud, not because they are organizing this day, this is where Hapin, Pache, can be instrumental in helping the West Papuans to move forward. And I'm grateful to them on behalf of my people, the West Papuans. Thank you very much. But don't and never dictate us what to do. We will do it ourselves. But give us the opportunity and the tools, and we will do it. Because of the special autonomy law, I am supporting the governor of Papua for 100%. Not because I agree with the government, but because he is son of Papua and I am son of Papua, and we both have the same responsibility to move forward with the land and with the forest. And he is saying, please, United Nations, please, international community, I want freedom for my forest. And that is his message. Later in Copenhagen, he will talk about the forest of West Papua. My critique to the governor is very clear. If you don't involve the communities at the basis, what are you talking about? But let me be frankly, I will talk to the governor how we can proceed on these issues. It's very important because things are happening in Papua and we all want to be part of it, but let's be realistic, pragmatic, practical, tactical, and strategical. Don't be principled because the principle is clear among ourselves what we want. But what we can achieve, this is where we are invited to do. So how far will we go with our solidarity from the Netherlands to the West Papuans? How much time, energy will invest in that? That is a question that I hope you will tackle during your own meetings so that they can be useful to the West Papuans. How much space will you give to the West Papuans to exercise the right to self-determination? Because that is basically what has been denied 40 years ago, but today as well. So I hope that in 2049, the right to self-determination will be determined by the West Papuans themselves around that time. And the important thing is how much space will you give to the Papuans themselves to take the development chances in their own hand and to slowly develop their own future. The right to self-determination does belong to the West Papuans. And I have to say that I wrote a long story to tell you, but I don't want to take much time. I just want to share with you the following 4 pages. Papua Merdeka, Papua Mabuk, atau Papua Mandiri. That's the choice. Either Papua Merdeka, atau Papua Mabuk, atau Papua Mandiri. It's the choice that we need to think about. The Second Papua Congress has already made clear we want to secede from the Republic of Indonesia through a peaceful dialogue. You will be entertained under the issue of dialogue this afternoon by my friend Muridan from Lipi, Indonesia. So that's fine. You can talk with him and exchange. The message is clear. The introduction of the struggle into cities through the Second Congress in Papua is very important. Now you can discuss in the streets all these issues just to exercise your right to self-determination, freedom of press, freedom of gathering. And the secession idea should be discussed through a dialogue. And that encompasses the right to self-determination of the indigenous peoples. Papua Mabuk is actually saying, well, I'm confused, I don't know where to go, how to go, and I just want to be independent. But the question of independence is something that you need to understand very well. Papua Mandiri, the politicization of special autonomous status of Papua as stepping stone to political independence, is the argument of the central government in Jakarta to dilute the real causes of political uncertainty in Indonesia, especially in Papua. The decentralization process should have been put in place to meet the regional and provincial aspirations of the indigenous peoples of Papua in the development of their human and natural resources in service of their needs and aspirations. And the special autonomy does give a lot of room for that. The external financial assistance and the internal economic potentials do require and challenge the establishment of the quest of land rights and sovereignty over the human and natural resources of the ownership in Papua. The indigenous peoples of Papua are part and parcel of the determination of their own destiny. They are the master of the land and resources. The challenge ahead is the creation or invention of a transformation mechanism that will enable them to enjoy the traditional extended family and kinship relationship and realm, as well as their active engagement within the market-oriented economy.